No, if someone had told me back then that regular hydrogen peroxide, yes, the kind you get at the drugstore for just a couple of dollars, could work actual magic on my houseplants, I honestly wouldn't have believed them. I mean, it's just that little brown bottle we all keep in the medicine cabinet, right? But it turns out, this humble liquid can save roots, give your plants a second chance, bring dying greenery back to life, and even chase off pests that nothing else seemed to handle. I first learned about this method around 7 years ago, when my calathea started to decline. She was a real beauty, velvet-like leaves, delicate as a princess, and one of my favorites. Then suddenly, her leaves turned yellow, and there was this unpleasant smell. I knew something was seriously wrong. I tried everything I could think of, but nothing worked. Then I remembered hearing once that hydrogen peroxide could help with root rot. It felt like my last hope, so I decided to give it a try. Of course, I dove into research, and wow, I read so much. Turns out, hydrogen peroxide isn't just an antiseptic. It actually contains active oxygen, and when it gets into the soil, it oxygenates it, improves root respiration, and kills harmful pathogens at the same time. It's like emergency resuscitation for plants. Honestly, it felt like giving mouth to a struggling flower. I made so many discoveries back then. I couldn't believe I'd ever cared for my plants without this miracle liquid. So I mixed 1 tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide with a liter of water and gently watered the soil. I remember how nervous I was. I was so afraid I might hurt the plant. It honestly felt like I was caring for a loved one, not just a houseplant. And believe it or not, the calathea came back to life. Within a few days, the smell disappeared. The leaves stopped wilting, and about a month later, she unfurled a brand new leaf. Since then, hydrogen peroxide has become one of my most trusted helpers. Actually, not just a helper, more like a little magic wand sitting right there on my bathroom shelf. Now I use it regularly, and not just for calatheas. Over time, I've collected quite a few practical tricks, and today I want to share the most reliable and effective ones with you. These are my personal go-to methods, the ones I use myself and happily pass along to fellow plant lovers. First of all, if a plant starts wilting even though you're watering it correctly, that can be a sign of trouble with the roots. Often, it's root rot or a lack of oxygen. In these cases, I always treat the soil with hydrogen peroxide. I simply water the plant with a solution, 1 tablespoon of peroxide per 1 liter of water. But I never do it more than once every 10 days. That's enough to help without overdoing it. The key is to really listen to your plant, observe how it responds. Sometimes I even take before and after photos to track the progress, and the results can be absolutely amazing. Secondly, I use hydrogen peroxide to treat seeds before planting, especially when it comes to rare or hard to germinate plants like adeniums, bird of paradise, or even certain types of cacti. I soak the seeds in a mild solution, 1 teaspoon of peroxide per cup of water, for about 30 minutes, then rinse them with clean water. This helps kill off any potential fungal spores, softens tough seed coats, and speeds up germination. I even ran a little experiment once to trace, 1 with peroxide treatment and 1 without, and the difference was huge. The seeds treated with peroxide sprouted faster and looked noticeably stronger. Here's another great hack. Hydrogen peroxide is an excellent disinfectant during repotting. I use it to clean pots, tools, and sometimes even the roots, especially if they look suspicious or I'm worried there might be lingering fungi. This is particularly important in spring, when I go on a full repotting spree with my entire green army. Trust me, no matter how pretty a planter looks, it's not worth risking your plant's health if bacteria are hiding inside. Never skip this step. It's your insurance policy against unpleasant surprises. I even occasionally spray the surface of the soil with a diluted peroxide solution. Especially for plants that sit in cooler rooms, it helps prevent mold from forming. Hydrogen peroxide is also a powerful remedy for fungus gnats. You know those annoying little bugs that show up in flower pots, especially in winter? A peroxide soil drench helps kill off their larvae hiding in the soil. The key here is not to overdo it, so you don't harm the plant itself. I usually do 2 waterings, 1 week apart, and then take a break. If the infestation is bad, I'll sometimes add a drop of mild soap to the mix. And I always take a closer look at my watering routine because gnats often show up when the soil is too wet. So in this case, peroxide works in two ways, as a treatment and as a reminder that it's time to adjust your care strategy. Plants like African violets, geraniums, hibiscus, ZZ plants, anthuriums, and orchids respond especially well to hydrogen peroxide. They genuinely seem to love it. Their leaves become firmer, the foliage turns a rich, vibrant green, and the blooms, just wow! Sometimes I walk into the kitchen in the morning and my geranium is practically smiling at me with a bunch of new buds. It instantly lifts my mood. And orchids, after treating their roots with peroxide before repotting, they grow like crazy. The key is to do everything gently and with love. But there are also plants that don't respond well to hydrogen peroxide. Ferns and jade plants, for example, can be a bit too sensitive to it. With these more delicate green friends, I prefer to use gentler care methods and avoid taking risks unless it's absolutely necessary. And now, I'd love to share 7 more helpful hydrogen peroxide recipes with you, practical, easy, and definitely worth trying. 1. Revitalizing leaf spray. Mix 1 teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide with 500 milliliters, about 2 cups of clean, preferably settled room temperature water. Pour the solution into a fine mist spray bottle and gently mist the leaves of your plants on both sides, making sure not to let large droplets run off. It's best to do this in the morning or on a cloudy day to avoid sunburn. This spray is especially effective after your plant has been through stress, illness, repotting, or has spent time in a dusty or dry environment. Not only does it help your plant recover, but it also prevents harmful microorganisms from developing on the leaf surface. You can repeat this treatment every 7 to 10 days while carefully watching how your plant responds. 2. Root system cleanse for rot treatment. Once you've gently removed the plant from its pot and shaken off most of the soil, take a close look at the root system. If you see any darkened, soft, or slimy areas, carefully trim them away using sterilized scissors. Then prepare a solution: 1 teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide per 1 liter, about 4 cups of clean water. Soak the roots in this solution for 2 to 3 minutes, or gently rinse them with it. This treatment disinfects the root surface, destroys pathogens and fungal spores, and supplies oxygen directly to the tissues. Afterward, let the roots air dry for 15 to 20 minutes, then replant the plant into fresh, sterile soil. This method is especially important when trying to revive orchids, African violets, calatheas, and other sensitive species. 3. Oxygen boost feeding for slow growth. Sometimes a plant just refuses to grow, even though everything seems fine. Proper watering, good light, the right temperature. Often, the real issue is compacted soil with poor aeration or an exhausted root zone. In this case, you can use an oxygen-rich feeding solution made with hydrogen peroxide. Mix 2 teaspoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide with 1 liter, about 4 cups, of room temperature water, and water the plant directly at the base, avoiding the leaves. Do this no more than once every 2 weeks. It helps oxygenate the soil, improves root respiration, and boosts the plant's ability to absorb nutrients. Plants with thicker root systems like peace lilies, Diophanbachus, and monsteris respond especially well to this treatment. Just don't overuse it, as it could disrupt the natural balance of beneficial microbes in the soil. 4. Cutting treatment before rooting. Before placing a cutting in water or planting it in soil, it's essential to disinfect it to reduce the risk of rot and fungal infection. To do this, prepare a solution: 1 teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide per 200 milliliters of water, about 1 standard cup. Dip the lower part of the cutting, the part that will go into the water or soil, into the solution for 10 to 15 minutes. After soaking, let the cutting air dry briefly. This method works especially well with plants like geraniums, ficus, coleus, pothos, and other easy-to-root varieties. Hydrogen peroxide helps speed up root formation, reduces loss, and prevents mold from forming in water. It's a great way to increase your success rate when propagating plants at home. 5. Treating surface mold on soil. If you notice a whitish film or green mold forming on the surface of your soil, it's likely a fungal growth or algae, especially common in high humidity and poor air circulation. To treat it, prepare a mild solution. Half a teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 100 milliliters of water. Pour it into a spray bottle and gently mist only the surface of the soil, being careful not to spray the leaves or stems. It's best to do this in the evening or on a cloudy day to avoid potential sunburn. After spraying, allow the soil to dry out well. You can repeat the treatment in 3 to 5 days if needed. It's also a good idea to lightly loosen the top layer of soil after the treatment. This helps prevent mold from returning and improves air circulation in the root zone. 6. Refreshing spray for dusty plants. Add 1 teaspoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide to 1 liter, about 4 cups of warm, preferably settled water. Pour the solution into a spray bottle and mist your plants evenly, making sure to cover both the tops and undersides of the leaves. This helps remove dust that can block the plant's ability to breathe and also refreshes its appearance. It's especially useful during winter months, when indoor heating dries out the air and dust tends to build up on leaves. Hydrogen peroxide not only cleans but also helps prevent mold and tiny pests. After spraying, you can gently wipe the leaves with a soft cloth or simply let them air dry. This treatment can be done every 2 weeks or whenever the leaves start to look dusty. 7. Removing algae from saucers and decorative planters. Over time, green or brown buildup can appear in plant saucers, decorative pots, or containers, usually algae or mold that thrive in damp conditions. To clean these surfaces, mix 2 teaspoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide with 500 milliliters, about 2 cups of warm water. Dip a sponge or brush into the solution and gently scrub any affected areas. Pay special attention to corners and edges where leftover soil and moisture often collect. If the buildup is old or stubborn, let the solution sit on the surface for 5 to 10 minutes before scrubbing again. After cleaning, rinse thoroughly with clean water and dry everything well. This method not only removes visible grime, but also disinfects the surface, helping to prevent future microbial growth. And don't worry, it's perfectly safe for your plants if a bit of the solution gets on the pot edges or inside the planter. And here's one more tip that rarely gets mentioned. If you grow plants hydroponically or often root cuttings in water, you can add just a few drops of hydrogen peroxide to the water once a week, about 2 to 3 drops per cup. This helps prevent stagnation, stops slime and mold from forming, and encourages healthier, faster root development. It works especially well when you're rooting cuttings in jars on a windowsill. The water stays fresh longer, and the entire process becomes quicker and more successful, with fewer losses. Try just 1 or 2 of these methods, and I promise you'll notice the difference. Even better, pick the one that suits your favorite plant best and let me know how it goes. But remember, hydrogen peroxide isn't a cure-all. That doesn't mean you should start pouring it on everything. I always look at how the plant is doing. I try to sense what it needs. Because every plant, just like every person, is different. One may need a little support, another simply needs rest. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions, but there are magical tools if you use them with care and understanding. And hydrogen peroxide is definitely one of them. I'd even go so far as to say that hydrogen peroxide should be treated like a first aid kit. When everything is fine, leave it alone. But when warning signs appear, that's when you reach for it and put it to good use. So, if your plant's leaves suddenly turn yellow, if fungus gnats show up, or if you just want to give your plant a little extra support, give hydrogen peroxide a try. Just remember to get the concentration right and don't overdo it. And most importantly, observe. Keep watching, listening, feeling, because your plant will always let you know whether it appreciates your care. It's alive. It's speaking to us even if it doesn't use words. Share your experience in the comments. I read every message and do my best to reply personally. The most interesting ideas and questions will definitely make it into future videos. And, of course, if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing. It's like a drop of hydrogen peroxide for me, a breath of fresh air. a sign that this work matters. You inspire me to keep going, to explore, experiment, and share more. Thank you for being here. If you have questions, don't hesitate, I always read your comments. And thank you for your trust. Without you, this little green corner wouldn't be nearly as alive and meaningful. May every pot in your home be filled with health, lush leaves, and blooming joy, and may your heart always carry a little light, hope, and spring.